Welcome to Sync Up, a show about OneDrive. We are your hosts, Ankita Kirti and Jason Moore. I'm Ankita Kirti, Product Manager on the OneDrive team.
And I'm Jason Moore, Director of Program Management for OneDrive. This show will take you behind the scenes of OneDrive, shedding light on how OneDrive connects you to all your files in Microsoft 365 so you can share and work together from anywhere while protecting your work from accidental loss and malicious attacks.
Today we are excited to have on this show Michael Holste.
So don't go away. We've got another great show for you today.
Yammer is a best-in-class, secure and private enterprise social network that empowers employees to be productive and successful by enabling them to collaborate easily. Organizational or department leaders often use Yammer to share company news, but Yammer can also be valuable for bringing people together to form communities with a common objective or interest. In this new world of hybrid work, Yammer offers employees a way to come together socially to share what's going on in their lives, both inside and outside work. So today we are here to learn more about Yammer and discuss how OneDrive supports this engagement among your employees. Jason, would you now introduce our guest?
Our guest today is Michael Holste. He's a product manager on the Microsoft 365 product marketing team responsible for employee engagement, including awesome products like Yammer and Viva connections. Welcome aboard, Michael.
Great. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here on Sync Up today.
I think we're going to kind of spend some time really framing up, what's the relationship between all the file stuff we normally talk about and Yammer, which is, this kind of social product in these interesting ways in an organization. If you could do, for a customer or someone listening who's never used Yammer, can you do the 60-second overview of how they should think about it?
Yammer is a social enterprise network that is for your organization. So it helps you stay connected to the people and the communities and the news that you care about at work. It helps you chase down knowledge and information. It serves as a place for community where you can go for virtual events, to connect with colleagues, and to understand really what's going on at your organization. But the best part is, since it's part of Microsoft 365, it works well with your other apps that you already work with and spend your time with, like Microsoft Teams and Microsoft Outlook, SharePoint, OneDrive, and it all comes with the security, compliance, and privacy benefits that you'd expect as being enterprise ready for the Microsoft 365 suite.
Okay, great. So as long as everyone understood all of that, you're going to be fine for the rest of the show. And if not, actually, you can just hit rewind and listen to it again because Mike did a great job of really encapsulating Yammer. I am a huge fan personally. Ankita knows that I use it every single day. It's one of the biggest ways that I actually help our team in the engineering side working on OneDrive and SharePoint stay in touch with the teams that are in the field or working directly with the customer or support. And it's just an awesome tool for us to build community and connection. So I'm a huge, huge fan. So I guess I'll go with the first deep question here, Mike, and then Ankita can go next. Well, I was curious, what kind of trends have you seen with Yammer in the past year, especially given, obviously, the huge push on remote work?
So we've seen Yammer have tremendous growth in the past year. As more and more organizations have transitioned to remote work or hybrid work, we do see this need to connect employees with their colleagues across different geographies, across different time zones or departments, and all these organizational silos that can exist in a business. Yammer helps break those down. So naturally, it's been a really, really popular place for employees to go find some of that connection that they've been missing, whether they're not in the office or not working at face-to-face with their colleagues any longer. Deeper than that, we've seen a lot of the superpowers, the capabilities within Yammer really take off this year. Live events and virtual events used to be something that only a handful of enterprises were really foraying into. And over the last 14 months, we've really seen that accelerate. Historically, Yammer has been positioned as a social layer for a business with integrations into Microsoft 365. And over the past year, we've deepened those integrations hugely with interactive emails and Outlook or new conversation web parts for SharePoint, an entirely new UI and UX for Yammer itself, and of course, really deep Teams integrations so everyone can stay on top of their communities and their core focus work all from a single place. The other area that I think that we've seen a lot of interest in and that is going to position Yammer well for the future and really add a lot of value to the suite in the future is around knowledge and intelligence over the past year. And we find that Yammer communities are part of the service that is driving that knowledge. Conversations and discussions happening between coworkers are rich sources of actual organizational intelligence that would otherwise be locked up in the heads of employees or might leave when an employee leaves the organization. But having those conversations happen in an open and public community in Yammer helps coworkers benefit from it. And you can do things like ask a question and mark a best answer. And with investments into things like Microsoft Viva and Project Cortex, we're taking that one step further in the coming months. Inclusive reactions in Yammer have also been really popular, and these help people express and reflect their true sense of self, where they can set their own skin tone and react and engage with the conversation in a way that feels authentically them. And lastly, we've seen a big need for people to collaborate with others who might be outside of their organization or outside of their tenant. And new guest access capabilities using Azure B2B ensure that you can bring external guests and partners and vendors into your communities and into your ecosystem, but in a safe and secure way that still meets your business's compliance goals.
A couple of months back, we had a customer success manager on SyncUp discussing how Teams has been this critical product for group communication and collaboration. And as you mentioned, Yammer is also readily available for groups of people for having open discussions and conversations across departments and across organizations. How do you see Yammer and Team collectively support an organization or work together in an organization?
This is a question that we get a lot from organizations, especially large ones that have Yammer deployed and have, of course, also been using Teams for their chat and meetings and calendaring. We see a lot of these organizations actually starting to use these very successfully. And we have new integrations that make it really, really simple to bring the value of both Yammer and Teams together in a way that makes it easy for employees and admins to stay on top of everything. But first, let me talk a little bit about Microsoft Teams and Yammer and how they each help an organization, and then I'll touch on how you can use them together. So in Microsoft Teams, we use this for our core work. It's where I can collaborate with my work group to get stuff done. I can chat. I can meet virtually with colleagues and other people that I need to have on webinars or meetings. I can collaborate on files to get my work done. And I really think of this as accomplishing the things that are on my day-to-day job description or my week-to-week job description with the people that I know and work with closely. Now, Yammer broadens that a little bit. Yammer's for communities. It's how I connect and engage with people across my organization, both in a public place or with people that I might not even personally know. It's a place where I can go to unlock answers, to discover what's happening, to share news and communications broadly and at scale. I can chase down knowledge. I can ask questions and get answers to the business questions that I have that help me get my job done. But I can also use it to build relationships and create two-way dialogue. So I can use it to connect with my leadership team, for instance, or I can connect retail employees across storefronts. Folks that would otherwise have very little interaction now have a place where they can go connect with their coworkers, share with their coworkers, and really help move the organization forward. And of course, feel connected to the mission and vision of their workplace. Now, this past year, we've announced a couple different ways that you can use Yammer and Teams together. So we have a Yammer tab for Teams, which you can add to any team or channel. But more so, we have this new Communities app for Microsoft Teams, which brings in a full fidelity, full Yammer experience directly into the hub for teamwork. It can be pinned using custom app policies, or a user can install it into their own Teams account. They can pin it to their app bar, and from there they can start conversations, they can ask questions, they can weigh in on other discussions, they can react, they can mark best answers, they can watch live events. Everything that they can do in Yammer, they can now do within Microsoft Teams. We've also created a couple new updates that help take that a little bit further. So we have included Yammer Conversation Search within the app so that you don't have to leave Teams to go find that discussion that you are looking for. And just recently, we've also shipped notifications for Microsoft Teams. So anytime that you are app mentioned or there's an announcement in a community that you follow, you see that same notification in the Teams activity feed. So it's easy for you to stay on top of what's happening and quickly jump into that conversation. And if you stay tuned up to the Yammer blog, we're going to have some more announcements here in the short term and in the long term about how we're bringing these products even closer together.
I love that. I think something that probably a lot of the listeners identify with is it's how interesting that For teams, so much about my use is about deepening connection, deepening conversation and collaboration with a smaller set of folks. And so much about Yammer is about broadening it, right? And so that depth versus breadth thing, I think it really gives you the full 360 across those pieces. And then for me personally, you mentioned things like the activity. I'm totally driven by that. I love being in teams and being like, oh, look, there's this activity that's happened on Yammer here in the OneDrive group. I can go and chat there. I can talk with that community. I can connect with those folks, get right back to other conversations and projects I was in. So I absolutely love the integration there.
Yeah, Jason, one thing we've seen that has been surprising about our own internal use of the Communities app at Microsoft is since we've included these notifications, engagement across Microsoft employees has skyrocketed.
Oh, wow.
But it's not just Microsoft employees. We're seeing the same at customers to the point where the Yammer Communities app in Microsoft Teams is now the second most used app in Teams.
Wow.
Just following Stream, which of course we use for recording meetings. So we've seen a huge bump in popularity, and that has really been a driving force for us to want to continue these integrations.
That's awesome.
Personally, my use of Yammer has increased after this integration and notification, because it's quickly you get it in Teams and either switch to Yammer or look at stuff over there. So yes, it has made a difference, at least to me. So I can imagine it must have for other folks as well. Not people like Jason, who I think is on Yammer the entire day, but for us who's not.
I love it. Well, let's switch gears a little bit, actually, Mike, and I'd love to hear a bit more about how, the roles that OneDrive and SharePoint play in Yammer, in particular in helping people be more successful in employing Yammer and boosting their engagement, getting, the answers they need, et cetera. If you could talk a little bit about the usage we see there, what we've learned out of customers leveraging that, and if there's any pro tips for listeners, that'd be awesome.
Well, OneDrive and SharePoint are both key ingredients in a healthy Yammer network. And I think Yammer really has a symbiotic relationship with each of these. OneDrive, of course, for pictures, files, documents, and rich media, and SharePoint for document libraries and also for sites. So folks can have discussions around specific documents and keep files close to home in a Yammer community. And of course, with SharePoint on the back end, you can retain all of the permissions and policies and retention that you get across M365 while still being in your community. And site-wise, you can bring all the goodness from Yammer right onto a SharePoint site with the Yammer Conversations web part, which we're actually in the works of shipping a newer, more customizable option. And then, of course, Viva Connections takes this all one step further. The cool thing where I think Yammer and SharePoint work really well together is it's a really seamless experience on how you manage your files and where you navigate to and how that experience looks like. But that's only if you're living in the Yammer browser. If you spend a lot of your time on the intranet, Yammer communities can be added essentially to any SharePoint page, allowing that SharePoint site to really serve as a front door for your organization, where you can have all of your web parts and news, announcements, and then loop in all of your conversations. So Yammer can help make SharePoint richer, and in the other direction, SharePoint and OneDrive really make Yammer a lot richer as well.
So it looks like Files experience is kind of core to the entire experience in Yammer. So Mike, could you share any new features that have been recently released or announced for future that aims at enhancing this Files experience within Yammer?
Yeah, files are critical to the success of the community experiences because files and rich media drive engagement in Yammer. We have a lot of improvements planned for the files experience in Yammer, OneDrive, and SharePoint. So that yesterday, when there was a different experience for navigating and selecting files between these apps, it led to a lot of customer confusion. It was a really fragmented customer experiences. But with the new file picker and coming soon file browser, there's additional coherence in the suite. Meaning that when users come to Yammer to upload a file or create a file, they see the same SharePoint Online file picker and shared control. We've also released this new file picker experience for OneDrive as well, so that wherever you're going, you're getting that same experience, making it super easy for end users. And then coming soon, we'll ship File Browser, which allows you to go to Yammer Communities Files tab and easily navigate to your files right from the community interface. And we'll look at making additional improvements. Increasingly, you'll see us designing these experiences for for files in SharePoint and OneDrive, since our overall strategy is to move all of our Yammer networks into something called native mode, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a bit.
Okay, you've absolutely piqued my interest there. I would love to hear more about native mode, and I suspect you're going to tell me, because I know about what we're doing for the show today, a little bit about how that helps make the overall process of managing it, of driving governance and compliance for the product through Yammer that much easier. But can you tell us a little bit more?
Sure. Native mode in Yammer helps simplify file administration through SharePoint, and it makes it easy to apply broad Microsoft 365 group management policies and allows for things like data retention and compliance. And it also has other benefits, like being able to host live events in every Yammer community. We even have a native mode alignment tool to help guide you through the steps to get there. But it's essentially a state of your network where every community is backed and the back end by a Microsoft 365 group, and all of your files live in SharePoint so that all of your existing file permissions and policies permeate across all of Microsoft 365.
Yeah, that's going to be so helpful because, when you think about the challenges that exist for the modern IT staff out there today, and probably a lot of our listeners, is all of these different ways and places you could do something. And so much of the value in Microsoft 365 is the consistency and coherence of all those pieces fitting together really well. So I absolutely love that that's going to be the case with this. And, native mode seems like something that'll reduce a lot of the headaches people have had out there in the wild. Well, Mike, we have our fun question kind of at the end, but is there any other kind of major things that you'd want to make sure our audience knows about or hears about in terms of awesome pieces coming to Yammer?
Yeah, we have a lot of news. We just had Microsoft Ignite last month, and you can learn about what the latest news and updates coming to Yammer are. We have a lot of events coming up over the next few months, so I would say keep your finger on the pulse on our blog. We'll be announcing those events. We'll have monthly wrap-ups that are just filled with new features and capabilities that are coming to the suite. We have a lot more integrations planned for Outlook. We talked briefly about the roadmap for Yammer and Teams getting closer together, the way that we host live events and attend live events and engage during large meetings and live events. We're going to have some updates in that space as well. And then, of course, for folks who have been listening here and follow Microsoft News, we also announced Microsoft Viva, which is an employee experience platform that really puts the employee at the center, and Yammer plays a big part in that. Yammer's all about employee engagement, so it is a really natural fit for it to be included in the employee experience platform, especially in the knowledge and topics area and coming into Microsoft Viva Connections, which is largely powered by SharePoint and OneDrive as well. So you'll continue to see these products working together, kind of breaking down those barriers of what historically maybe were point solutions in the marketplace, coming in as a single team in the suite and offering a lot of superpowers to enterprises.
I love that. Superpowers to enterprises. That's absolutely true. And okay, so there's a ton to follow up on there. Folks, if you're not following the Yammer blog, I definitely implore you to. There's really cool stuff coming. We would love to talk all about it right now, but we can't get ahead of the show there. There'll be some really cool stuff. We always like to do one fun question at the end of our guest sequences here, Mike, and it's no different this time. Ankita, which question did we want to go with today?
Today, we wanted to know if there is a favorite book that you probably read in school or as a child that you keep coming back to or reading it again and again over the years.
Definitely. I would have to say The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde is a book that I was assigned and unexpectedly made me fall in love with reading, both during school and after school. And I believe that the style and the quotes and the witticism really, really portrays classic Oscar Wilde, and the enjoyment of the book far exceeds the plot points. It's really the banter that goes back and forth, the playfulness of the writing and the language. Highly recommend it. It's a short read as well, which is near and dear to my heart. And, it's one of the classics. It stood up over the test of over a century or so. And a lot of the quotes and a lot of the themes really, really, I still think are relevant in today's digital.
That's awesome. I love that. What a great reference. Mine is also a classic reference, but Ankita, you go next.
In school, we had a lot of Shakespeare, and that language was really tough, so I did not really fall in love with it or would ever read it again. But when I started reading Harry Potter, that was around the same time, in a couple of years, the movies also came out. So everything I was reading and imagining, I could literally see it on screen. So that became like a beautiful experience, and I used to wait outside the shops to get the first copy as it came. And that's something that I've read and watched over and over again, and even till recently. So that would be mine, the entire Harry Potter set.
We're going to have to start coordinating on these because that was my second pick, was the Harry Potter series. I reread it every year. I love it. I think it's a really well-written one. Like you, Mike, like there was a book assigned in school that I was dreading it coming up. And it was Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities. And I absolutely fell in love with it. And it feels really weird and it sounds a little pretentious, but I really, really did. And, it's for any of our listeners, you may have heard that, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times, which is how the book opens. Very famous quote. But for me, the quote that was always so magical was actually towards the end. It is a far, far better thing that I do than I have ever done. It is a far better rest that I go to than I have ever known. Roughly, I may have gotten that a little bit wrong, but yeah, absolutely, absolutely love that. And so if you're listening right now and you're wondering, hey, I need something new to check out or read or reread, check out The Picture of Dorian Gray, check out the books of the Harry Potter series. Failing that, check out A Tale of Two Cities. It's a really great one.
Great book. It's a force of nature. That's a long read as well.
Yeah, that's a weekend read. You can plow through it. All right. Well, thank you so much, Mike, for being on the show. It's been awesome having you on. Our audience, the listeners, will be interested to find and learn more about you. Where can they go?
You can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Michael Holste. I'm a senior PMM at Microsoft. There's probably only one of me. You can also find me on Twitter at twitter.com/Mike_Holste. And then the other places where you can see more of the work that I do would be around Microsoft Viva and around Yammer. So you can check that out at Microsoft.com/Viva and follow what's new and what's next with Yammer on the Yammer blog on Microsoft Tech Community. And I got a short link for you there at aka.ms/Yammer/blog.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for being on the show.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me. Always a great time.
So, Jason, what's on our special topic plate for today?
Fika.
Fika.
That's right, fika.
But you've got to give me a little more than that. What's fika?
All right, fair enough. So fika is a concept that our team actually borrowed from Sweden. Listeners, if I get this wrong, please send me a note and help me get it better. But it's often translated from what we've seen as a coffee and cake break. But it really means so much more. It's about making this time to connect over something like coffee or tea or a little snack with your friends and colleagues.
Yeah, coffee and cake, I am up for it. I like that. So where does that fit in for us?
The reason I brought up that name is actually it's been the name of a project our team has been building for some time, actually born out of experimentation work done by members of the team during an event we call FHL, Fix, Hack, Learn. We'll talk about that in a future month. That's a lot of fun, that one. But anyway, out of that, we had this idea to create a connection between colleagues intentionally without necessarily reinforcing maybe the same few people you'd normally go and see and get coffee with, especially right now during a pandemic when none of us can actually easily get together. And so it started out as a way for us to create connection in our women's mentoring circles within the organization.
So that all sounds very interesting. I mean, have you given any guidance to your team? Have folks done something that has worked? Any best practices?
Absolutely. And in fact, we've kind of looked at this and said, okay, let's try to set up some way to kind of achieve the experience of grabbing coffee with a couple of other, 2-3 other folks. The difference between this and maybe the hallway kind of thing or the after meeting thing is that there's this intentionality of setting it up. We actually run a whole system that allows us to do this, what we call Fika. And so you sign up in our team, you can sign up for Fika and the tool automatically connects you with others in the organization every month. It works actually to create the thing that's magical about it is it kind of figures out, okay, who are all the folks who are signing up who'd like to participate in connecting with some others on the team. And it tries to create groups that have different roles and levels and work on different parts of the team. So it's building connection and socialization that's not necessarily common, the things that wouldn't happen naturally out of maybe the work that we do. And so it's this great way to build connection broadly with your coworkers and kind of socialize that you might have otherwise gotten if we were all in the office, in the hallway, bumping into each other in the kitchenette or on the way to the cafeteria, that serendipitous kind of aspects that come out of it. And what we found is it's incredibly well appreciated, especially right now under COVID. All of these meetings that we're setting up these days feel so transactional. Our conversations are because we have a business purpose. And so it's really hard to kind of create the moment in time, especially an excuse to talk to someone that you don't have the quote unquote business need to talk to. And so Fika is a little bit of an excuse to spend time connecting with and talking to others. The additional layer of doing it across folks you may not know as well is amazing for sparking new connections and peeling back some of that day-to-day work to better connect with the coworkers around you. And we've just found that to be really kind of an awesome frame of mind in terms of building a healthier connection in the team.
I love that. And it's so incredible. I mean, doing this during COVID, obviously it must be great. So how do I go about it? Do I need to build an app?
We actually have a bot in Teams.
What? Really?
But it's not necessary. You don't have to go build an app. Honestly, you could do this as simply as putting together a spreadsheet on someone's OneDrive and having everyone just put their name in, and then creating column and sorting people and putting them into different groups and then sending them an email. Like it can be totally manual and it's not a ton of work. The idea, behind it is really to do it just once a month. So it's not always being traded off against other work. You can find 45 minutes or an hour somewhere in the month to help build that connection and kind of associate with that. So we do it once a month, and every month we change the groups that are involved in it. Sometimes people might be like, hey, I'm on vacation this month, or I'm really busy this month, so I'm going to opt out. But people being a part of that and kind of connecting with different people month over month, it just creates this really simple excuse for building a healthier and much more human relation with the folks that you work with and are part of your organization.
That's amazing. So next month you're buying me coffee and cake, and if I'm still in India, then probably dinner, because it'll be night for me.
That's right. Is it Grab? Is it Grab that I'd have that delivered with?
No, it's Uber Eats, Swiggy, and a couple of more, Zomato and stuff. Yeah.
I'm sure you'll tell me where to send money.
Yes, for sure.
We'll make it happen. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Awesome. That was great to know. And I hope this benefits all you listeners as well. So grab a coffee and cake with your peers who you've not met for a very long time and get connected. Thanks, Jason, for sharing that with us. Thank you again to our guest, Michael Holste. To learn more about OneDrive and the latest developments, please follow our tech community blog at aka.ms/OneDrive/blog.
And please do send us your questions and feedback. You can reach us on Twitter at OneDrive, @Jasmo, and @Alkata_Kirti21. And definitely visit our show page for links, resources, and more at aka.ms/syncup. That's SYNCUP. Follow the show wherever you get your podcasts. How do you normally learn about the best dentist or plumber? Word of mouth. And podcasts are the same. Sharing and talking about a show is still the very best way for people to learn about new podcasts like SYNCUP. If you enjoy SYNCUP, help us help others by sharing this episode. And if you're curious about other cool shows by Microsoft, go to ak.ms/Microsoft/podcasts. There's something for everyone.
Thank you for listening to SYNCUP, a show about OneDrive. We are your hosts, Ankita Kirti and Jason Moore. We'll catch up with you next month. Yay!
Sorry, I have the giggles now. You're making me laugh, Ankita.
I muted myself so that...
Okay.